everyone, I'm Ken Verderami, and welcome to another edition of the Ultimate Steel Shooter, where we talk about all things and only things Steel Challenge. All right, guys, before we get into today's video, remember, as always, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Hit that like button if you like the content here in this particular video. Tell your friends about it. Share the video with them, and that's the way we're going to make this channel grow. All right? So, today's video is going to be about what are the proper mechanics to get that ultra high speed draw, right? Everybody's looking for that sub 1 second draw to the first target, and there's some very specific things that you need to do if you're going to be able to get that 1 second or sub 1 second draw. Okay, so I'm going to cover those particular things today. Now, it doesn't really matter what centerfire division you're using. I'm going to be shooting, I'm going to be using an open gun today, but you can be doing production, limited. It doesn't actually matter, even revolver. Okay, the mechanics that I'm going to talk to you that help you get that high-speed draw are the same regardless of the division. Okay, now I've got my typical setup: eye protection, ear protection, and you'll see why in a second here that's important. We're going to use that as we go. All right, so the number one thing that's important for developing a high-speed draw is to be able to do the same thing with your mechanics over and over again. You don't want to be draw, right, on a hard target you have one draw mechanic, and on a short target you have a different one. You should have the same draw mechanics regardless of the target difficulty or the position of the particular target, first target they're shooting. None of that makes a difference. Your basic mechanics to draw are always going to be the same. All right? So let's go through the basics of the surrender and get the proper position, and then we'll go from there. So number one, right, it's a surrender draw. So the rule says your hands above the shoulders, visible from the back, right? So when the RO is standing behind you, he can see your hands, right? So this kind of thing, right, is not legal. This is not legal. You can't see your hands, right? So hands visibly above the shoulders, visible from the back. So they're going to have to be out here somewhere, okay? And you want repeatability. So what I do is I take my hands and I take my thumbs and I put them at the bottom of my ear protection, okay? And I do that for two reasons. Number one, position like this is legal. You can see your hand from, it's above the shoulder and behind, so that makes it legal. And number two, and most importantly, is I can put my hands in exactly the same position every single time. And that's critical to developing an appropriate high-speed draw, okay? So number one is hand. Now, you don't have to do that. Some people, you put them in other places, but try to pick a position that you can repeat all the time. And the problem with it is if you don't touch something on your body, and if you put your hands out here, like I see most people do, how do you know every time you go to position that your hands are exactly in the same position? That your hand isn't maybe over here or over here or here or here. And if it's different every time, your draw mechanic is going to be different every time, and you're never going to develop a high-speed draw. So by touching something on your body, it's easy to get to the exact same position every single time. Okay, so that's the first part. Your feet are shoulder width apart. Okay, you want you to bend your knees slightly. Weight should be on the balls of your feet in a nice, comfortable position. Okay, so that's the what we call index point number one. Now, depending on where that first target is, okay, you're not going to move your feet. You're going to rotate your body. So let's take speed option, right? Most people shoot target 5, which is way off to the right, as your first one. Okay, so you're not going to line up like this and move your feet, right? You're going to stand here, and basically after you get in position, you're going to rotate your upper body and be looking at that first target. Okay, that's all you're going to do. We're going to assume for this one that you're looking straight ahead, though, that the first target is straight ahead. Okay, just for simplicity. So your basic surrender draw position is like this: hands above the shoulders, feet comfortably shoulder width apart, and your weight centered, and you're ready to go. Okay, now the next principle about a high-speed draw is when one hand moves, both hands move, okay? I see a lot of people do this, right? The timer goes off and they'll go for their gun and their hand's here, and then as they draw the gun down, they gotta move their hand and they gotta figure out what they're doing, okay? You want, when one hand moves, both hands move. Both always simultaneous, okay? So, the first movement that we're gonna call index point 1 at the timer is you're gonna move as your gun hand moves towards the gun, your weak hand is gonna move down towards the center of your stomach, okay? In a simultaneous motion, so it's gonna look like this. So, on the timer, it's gonna be like that, okay? That's the position you want. Again, just about half speed, right? Just like that, okay? This is index point 1. And again, don't spread your fingers apart, right? Keep your thumb up, keep your hands together, and here. And a lot of people, you can go ahead and they actually slap their belly just to make sure they're getting it. That's fine too. Once you develop some rhythm, you can actually do that, and you don't necessarily need to go and slap your belly. But if in order to start, if that makes you feel better, and you get down, you can do that as well, okay? So again, index point 1 is here, right? Now, after you made contact with the tang of the gun and the grip, and you've got a firm grip on the gun, you're literally gonna snatch that gun out of the holster, okay? It's a quick, you don't wanna go and get the gun and kind of lift and you see people move their shoulder and stuff, okay? As you grab that gun, the next thing you're going to do is you're literally going to snatch that gun out of that holster, whether it's a rice holster or a production. And as you're moving the gun out of the holster, okay, you start moving towards the target. Your weak hand comes up to meet that gun and start forming that grip about halfway there. Okay, again, you're here now with a race holster, right? I've only got to pick the gun up about that far, and I'm free of the holster, and I can start moving. If you're a production guy, you've got a full holster, and so you've got to come up and clear the holster and then move forward. Doesn't matter. What you don't want to do is don't do that L maneuver you hear a lot about, which is like this. You're up, out, okay? That's very slow, wastes a lot of time, okay? As soon as your gun clears whatever holster you have, you need to start making a beeline for extension, and your left hand, if you're a right-hand shooter, will just simply catch up, okay? So index point 1, so next thing you're gonna do is as you snatch that gun out of the holster, you start making a straight line for the target. Your weak hand comes up, and you're gonna now start forming that grip. You're forming that grip, and as you form that grip, you're then going to extend and look at the target, okay? So again, about 3/4 speed here, right? So you're here, you snatch the gun up, form that grip, and then press out and pick up the target and get ready to shoot, okay? So, again, as you're doing this, you want to be able to form that grip and have your two hands meet as quickly as possible. What you don't want to do is you don't want to get here and get the gun out, and then you got to try to catch up, right? You want to be able to get this gun here. You got your hand on the tang, and as you're snatching it out of the holster, the second it comes out of the holster, right, you should be forming that grip as early as possible, and then press, and this allows you to pick up the sight as fast as possible and get lined up on the target. All right, so let's look at it all in one motion here. So again, surrender draw position. My thumbs are touching the bottoms of my ear protection just for consistency. And then on the timer, your hands come down. Index point 1. As you make good contact with the grip, you then snatch the gun out of the holster. As the gun comes up, you're going to start forming that grip right here. You've got the grip formed, and now you extend and then pick up the sights and pick up the target and fire the shot. Okay? Now, as you're doing that, if you notice, nothing else is moving except my hands and my arms. Okay? The other thing that makes a fast draw is economy of motion. So you want to limit your body motion to just your hands and arms. You want to be moving your legs and body and all over the place. Okay, the only exception is, like I said, if you got to shoot an off-axis target, you want to rotate and get in position ahead of time and take that target. Okay, what you don't want to do is if you're shooting that target over there, right on the timer, go and turn. Okay, it just wastes a lot of movement. So, but if you'll notice, right, start from the beginning again, there's no movement of any part of my body except for my hands, right? And out, okay? And if you watch the best shooters in the world and you watch them draw, you'll notice that it's basically just still except for their hands. Nothing in their body is moving. Okay? That's one of the secrets to an ultra-fast draw. The more things in your body that are moving, the slower you're going to be, because your mind's got to try to figure out, and you've got to stop everything, because let's face it, right? At the very end, when you're ready to shoot the target, you can't be moving. So the more things that are moving, the more things that have to eventually stop moving before you can pull the trigger. All that takes time, and it slows down your draw. Okay? All right, so one last time from the beginning. So sort of draw position, feet shoulder width apart, weight on the balls of your feet, nice and comfortable, relaxed. Your hands somewhere above your shoulders. Like I said, I like it touching my hearing protection because it's consistent and I can do it the same every time, and you're ready to go. And the other thing, of course, is your hands, right? This particular hand, right? If you do this, what happens? As you come down, you now have to turn your hand to grab the gun. Okay. The other nice thing about having your hands in this position is as you come down, notice this hand, right? It is right in the right position. So all I got to do is grab the gun and turn. I don't have to do any extra movement. My wrist is locked. It comes straight down, grabs the gun, and come up. Again, economy of motion. Try to limit the number of things that are moving. So one more time. Okay, we're in the ready position here on the timer. Both hands come down, grab the gun, snatch it out, start forming that grip early, and then press out to the target, and as soon as you get a good sight picture, pull the trigger. All right, that's really all there is. Now, as far as practicing this and training to it, what I'd recommend you do is you do it in a couple of pieces and then put it together. So I would start out practicing the first index point. So just practice this, right? Get this down as fast as possible, okay? Use the decreasing part time method. You should be able to set a part time of 0.6 or 0.7 seconds for that first part, right? And just keep working until you can beat the part time and just get to this point, okay? Then the second stage of practicing is set up at index 0.1, and again, put the part timer at about 0.5 or 0.6, and on the timer, you then finish the draw and try to beat the timer. Okay? Start out, no trigger pull. Just learn the mechanics of getting out quickly. Okay? Right? And remember, if you're an open shooter or limited, you've got hammer back, and so you've got that your safety to manipulate as well. So gun comes out, and if you notice, right, thumb, there goes the safety's off as I'm pressing to the target. So it's a lot of things going on there. But second half is here, right? And then practice that. After you've got both micro pieces of the draw worked out, then put the entire draw together as one motion and set your timer and try to beat the timer, okay? And if you do that in bits and pieces, you'll be able to see that eventually you'll slowly bring your part times down. After you do that without any trigger pull, then repeat the drill, but now add a trigger press in there, okay? Because what you're gonna find is that, particularly when you go to live fire, you probably start out by over aiming, and while you can draw in less than a second, you still don't actually fire a shot in under a second at the target because you're taking too much time to aim. But that'll help you decide and learn where you're losing all the time in the draw process, and you can focus on just fixing that part of the draw process. All right, guys, I think we'll that should just about do it for this one. So again, remember, if you want that sub 1 second draw, you got to work at it. I would practice it every single time you go out. Spend at least 10-15 minutes of every training session doing that live fire, and certainly dry fire. Right, 95% of a draw you can practice in dry fire, and there's no reason to use any live bullets, and you can get all the mechanics down and get all the speed from there, and then go out and do the live fire part of it. Okay, if you work on this, there's no reason you can't develop a sub 1 second draw literally with just a couple of weeks of working it. It's really not that difficult to do. Okay, all right, guys, I think we're going to call it right there. So remember, if you're interested in my dry fire training system, be sure to check out my website, steelshootbanners.com. We've got all our Steel Challenge 8-stage in banner form there. We've got all USPSA training banners as well. We got 40 different training banners for USPSA, patterned after a lot of Ben Steiger's training drills. We got 15 classifier stages there, and we've got the Glock 3 official stages if you're a Glock Shooting Sports Federation competition shooter as well. So check all that out. Don't forget my 2 books, Do You Feel the Need for Speed and The Game Within the Game. Both of those books are available at Amazon Books as well. The only 2 books available on the market today dedicated 100% to the sport of steel challenge. So check those out as well. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. So remember, as always, slowing down is never the right answer. Never. You need to learn to see faster.
Ready. Stand by.